This is something I don't like to do, at least on this channel. However, recent actions and activities over the course of the last month has caused me to be silent no more. I originally planned for this to be a hit/rant video, but after weighing my options for some time, I decided it would be best if I told you about my experiences with this user instead. Now before I continue, I wish to address two things. One, this will be the only serious video I will do on this person, so any comments complaining about me spreading drama will be ignored because regardless of the reception this video receives, this video will be the only one. Besides, really hard for drama to spread when one of the people drops out after saying their piece. And two, I do not condone harassment or attacks on Ace. That is also why I decided not to turn this into a rant, because that isn't going to accomplish a damn thing. It'll only make it worse. As such, I decided to just tell you my story and leave it at that. No follow-up after this, no video response if Ace decides to respond to this video. This is it. So with all that said, let's begin with my video on AceTheJirachi, which for those who don't know is a TPI user. Now, my first time hearing about Ace was when I heard about an intro for a new TPI series. Total Pokemon Island for those who don't know what that means. Overall, the intro was meh, nothing too special. But the name, however, piqued my interests. The Pokédex Challenge. Now, for those who don't know, there was another TPI series with a similar name that was released years prior. It was called the Andy X Challenge, made by Emerald Star Productions / TellyZX, or Telly for short. So once I found this out, I was like, did this guy just rip off the AXE creator? And keep in mind, this isn't my first rodeo when it comes to people stealing characters / titles. A friend of mine who used to do TPIs back in the day did this to Mysterious525 back then, before suddenly removing the two characters about halfway through. Hell, this day I still think the reason he replaced them was because Mysterious525 found out about it. But I digress. Needless to say, I'm able to spot plagiarism a lot easier than others when it comes to TPIs. So cut to some time later, he releases an update video announcing another show to his channel, The Elemental Chronicles. He also announced Last Player Standing, but I'll come back to that later. Once I saw the title and the teaser picture, I once again thought that this guy ripped off another show, The Emerald Chronicles, which was also made by the AXE creator. But this time, not only did the title sound almost similar, but even the characters resembled ones not on the show. What do I mean? Well, most of Telly's male characters on this show have a pattern of open vests / jackets and no t-shirts underneath. Basically, his regular male designs on the show are there for man service. Now, this raised some red flags for me. The models, the familiar titles, the setting. I was convinced this dude ripped off Telly's show. Oh, and he may have also ripped off his Total Drama Month bit too, but that's another story. So I called his ass out on this, and sure enough, Telly posted a comment on it before I posted my comment, and he noticed this ripoff as well. So already I wasn't happy with this guy. I get that the dude was a beginner at the time, but ripping off concepts / ideas from someone else? Really? Especially this much? So 2 days after this, he uploaded a second update. Now, he said PXE was being quote-unquote rewritten. That raised more red flags for me. Yeah, I know, it's a lot of red flags. And here's why. 2 days prior to this, he got comments saying that PXE was too similar / ripped off AXE, and now he's saying it's being rewritten? That sounds suspicious. Oh, and spoilers, PXE hasn't come out since the second update video, which was released in January. As for Elemental Chronicles, he said that the sprites were being redone since he admitted the sprites were taken from Telly. Much like PXE though, we have seen nothing from this project since it was announced in January. Go figure. But that's small potatoes, especially compared to other shit he's done. So let's get to the main course of the story. So, a while back, around the time of Total Pokemon Music's creation, I created Gallade's Human Sprite. This was made as a response to the Lapras Human Sprite I showed to my friends the night before. But I wanted to do something new, from scratch. So I made a new set of abs and chest muscles and showed it off. Yes folks, that muscle design on Gallade and or Luxray, made from scratch. Now, Telly, a good friend of mine, liked it and asked if he could use it for his show. Naturally, being a good friend, I agreed to give it to him as long as he gave me credit. He did so. Not all the pics, but he still gave credit. Now, before I continue, I wish to address something quick. With the exception of the stuff made from scratch, all the trainer sprites I have made are recolor edits. I do not own the copyrights to them, and if Nintendo told me to take them down, I will. I bring this up because despite what I'm about to say after this, I can't do anything legally about it. But it still pisses me off to see someone else take that shit from someone else and not crediting the original artist. And that is what Ace did. Once I found this out, I wasn't fuming at the mouth or anything stupid like that, but I wasn't happy. That took me hours to get the proportions down, the shading as good as I could at the time, making sure it looked right, and polishing it up. Then this guy comes around and just takes it without credit? No, that shit don't fly with me. But again, I have no legal ground to stand on. Still pisses me off, but what can I really do about it? Then we move on to the Delta Team shit. This was when I confronted Ace privately. because not only was he ripping off designs from Emerald Chronicles, but also from the Marvel movies. Seriously, look at this guy and honestly tell me he doesn't look like a certain Winter Soldier. It was by this point, however, that he finally credited Telly and I in the comments section, and he finally started to create his own sprites. That it took him numerous comments and me calling us outside in private for him to listen, but whatever. After that though, I thought it would be over. But no. There were two other heads of the Ace Hydra that need to be destroyed. Those two being his TPI series and his response to criticism. By the time Delta Team was announced, Last Player Standing was already out. I didn't see it though, at least not when it first came out. Due to Ace's previous actions, I wanted to avoid him at the time. Unfortunately, I couldn't, as Telly was doing episodic reviews of his series and my other friends in the community were talking about it. So I did eventually see it. Sadly, based on these reviews, Telly was not completely happy with the product, and while he did offer critique, well, Ace didn't always listen. In fact, a lot of the time, he was defending the episode. For instance, he said that the characters would improve as time goes on, and yet in episode 2, the characters were even shittier than the pilot, and episode 3 wasn't much better. Telly told Ace to differentiate his voice. He hardly did. He told Ace to use text boxes as a piece of advice if he couldn't differentiate them. He did, only partially. He told Ace about his issues with the elimination. He made it worse. If there's one thing I hate, it's when someone clearly has issues and is given criticism that can easily be applied, and they ignore it. I hated it with Shinx, and I hate it here. Hell, episode 3 was a huge setback in my opinion based on audio, characters, challenges, etc. I mean, what the hell, Ace? You have Telly offering you free help, and you basically ignore him and just do your own thing, which isn't even working? Hell, for a guy who watched other TPIs before making Last Player Standing, I thought you would have learned something from it. But clearly not. TLDR, criticism is good for a reason. Stop ignoring it and or playing damage control, because all this is doing is basically taking that hand that's trying to help you and biting it. Hell, this is coming from someone who got thrashed by Telly when I first started Resort. But you know what? Ignoring the friendship thing, I took his critique into consideration because he had a point. And you know what? The reception from both fans and critics rose after that point. So after all that happened, Telly stopped reviewing Ace's episodes and took him off the list. And once again, I thought that was the end of it. I hoped he would listen after that and make episode 4 even better, because despite the faults, he still had decent characters on the show. Then, this happened. I mean, wow. Just wow. So instead of continuing with Last Player Standing and refining the good parts, few as they were, you decided to take your ball and go home, basically. So, yeah, I wasn't happy about this if you couldn't tell. Not only because he basically rebooted everything, but he basically wasted everyone's time hyping up LPS, only to reboot it weeks after the episode 3 review. Listen, if you're gonna do a project like this, stick with it, because by quitting and or rebooting it, it pisses off your fans of the show, and it puts distrust in them, since what's to say that the next show you announce won't be cancelled shortly after the announcement, especially when you did it before. Hell, at least when I uploaded that Deso Troya video, I stated it was a test pilot for a reason. To evaluate the reception from my viewers and see what they think of it. Since it was split down the middle, I decided to leave it as a test pilot and not turn it into a series because, really, if I wasn't even going to have motivation to do it and the fan reception wasn't that great, well, why should I bother? Since joining this community, I have called out a lot of people for their shit. Hell, back in 2015, I called out Telly for his numerous cancellations, because that shit was bad, and it could hurt his channel in the long run if he continued to do it. Hell, I wasn't even the only one saying it at the time. It got to the point where even his friends were saying the same things as I did. And this is no different. Instead of continuing it, you canceled it, despite hyping it up, hurting your fans in the process. And honestly, unless Ace improves big time from all this, this will happen again. He'll hype up this reboot, it'll get called out, and he'll either reboot it again, or just quit altogether. You know what? I want to be proven wrong on this one, Ace. I really do, because I hate shit like this. But as shown with your previous actions, something tells me that history is going to repeat itself. That concludes my story. Overall, I am not mad at Ace, just disappointed. Disappointed in him ripping off people's titles and concepts, disappointed in taking people's art without credit, disappointed in him rebooting shows that he upped up previously, and disappointed over how he takes criticism. Like I said in my opening sentence, this will be my only serious video on Ace, because I refuse to turn this into a saga, especially since I have other things to do. And again, please do not harass Ace, it is not worth it. So whatever road you take, Ace, whether it be down the path of success or failure, I want you to know this. Right now, you're at a crossroads between the two paths, and neither path has a sign stating which one is which. So whichever path you've chosen, whichever path you go down, remember, you chose that path.